Greetings, everyone. Hello. We're going to give it just a couple minutes here for everybody to get online. And let me get our PowerPoint ready as well. Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're logging in from. Welcome back to Tuesday Talks. We've missed you and we're glad to be back. And I'm very, very honored to have my colleagues here from 4 wonderful institutions. They're going to talk about close relationships. It's a special topic for me because I myself am a Wellesley alum. So I love liberal arts colleges. I really keep in touch with people from the college. So I think today, as we talk about relationships, that's going to be key. So just a couple nuts and bolts before we start. We have the Q&A box as usual. So feel free to start asking questions as they come, because what usually happens is at the end, everybody starts to type in. And I'd love to be able to kind of consolidate those questions so that we can get to as many of them as possible. To those of you who are watching on YouTube, we're glad you're here. You can also text your questions there, and I'll be monitoring that as well so that we can make sure that everything is covered. I know people are going to be showing up as we start here, but why don't we just go ahead and have our guests today introduce themselves and get going. Sarah.
All right, so I know we're going to introduce ourselves first, and we're all just being too polite. So, hi everyone. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you to Gloria and InitialView for putting on such a wonderful series of talks and webinars. I know it's been a highlight for us to be able to participate, so thank you. I represent Vassar College in Minnesota. And before we kind of move forward into the general topic of the evening, we wanted just to make sure that everyone had a good foundation in what we mean when we talk about the liberal arts, and specifically the types of institutions that we all represent, which are the liberal arts and sciences colleges that are in the US. First, I want to just make sure, it can be a little confusing. In the United States, university and college, you'll hear that quite a bit, they're actually usually used interchangeably. So I know depending on the country system that you're in, sometimes college is used to refer to kind of as that upper secondary school or something that is not quite at the same level as university. In the United States, we confuse things a little bit. So you have colleges like the 4 of us, but you also have universities. We all offer at the undergraduate level the same 4-year bachelor's degree. So whether you are getting your bachelor's degree from a college in the United States or your bachelor's degree from a university in the United States, it's the same 4-year bachelor degree. And in fact, even if you were to go to, say, Harvard for undergraduate, you're actually going to Harvard College as an undergraduate student. The differences really come in, one, liberal arts and sciences is actually a type of curriculum. And for those of you, especially if you are in India, Ashoka University is actually a university that kind of models on that liberal arts and sciences curriculum program. And it's a curriculum that actually kind of developed within the United States, but certainly there are more options now around the world. And it's based on having a well-rounded, broad-based curriculum. It's the idea that the best preparation for whatever life throws at you is one where you are being encouraged to understand lots of different perspectives. You know, if your goal is to go into engineering, it could be really helpful actually to have an understanding in urban studies or in psychology if you're working with people a lot. I have a friend who their engineering program, they're liberal arts based, and they actually require their engineering students to take theater classes so that they can be better prepared to present to clients. And so it's really about giving you a wide range of skills and the ability to connect different things that we think makes you really desirable to future employers as well as graduate programs. Our types of schools, the liberal arts and science colleges, we are specialists, right? We're colleges because the vast majority of us don't actually have graduate programs. That's why we're a college, not a university. And so we focus all of our resources, all of our expertise, all of the opportunities on the 4-year undergraduate experience. So it means that you have incredible access to research opportunities. I think for most of our schools, we can cite very impressive percentages of STEM majors who are doing hands-on research with faculty, 80%, 85%, 90%, and being able to have that hands-on experience. It also means that we are focusing on small communities. We're small on purpose. Most liberal arts and sciences colleges in the US have 3,000 or fewer undergraduates. And we do that on purpose because we think it's just as important in your education and your development to be able to develop those close connections that we're going to be talking about. Being in a classroom where you're being encouraged to discuss and talk and not just sit in a 300 or 400 person lecture hall, and really develop those, that attention to detail, that close connections and the networking that you can get to do. It also means that, again, in the classroom, even your introductory level classes, your intro to psychology, your intro to chemistry, they're still going to be relatively small classes. Most of our schools can also cite really impressive numbers of percentage of our classes that have fewer than 30 or 20 students. So for example, at Macalester, 70% of our classes have fewer than 20 students in them. So again, that ability to really get to connect with your professor as well as with your classmates is such a huge advantage, because when it comes time for your faculty to suggest graduate programs to you, to write you letters of recommendation, they've gotten to know you really well in the classroom environment. And we're also uniquely residential, right? We also really believe that what you're learning and growing in your college experience doesn't just happen in the classroom. The interactions you're having in the residence halls, in your extracurricular activities, is just as important as what you are doing in the classroom. And so most small liberal arts and sciences colleges will actually have a residence requirement where you're actually required to live on campus for a certain number of years, because again, that community component we feel is just so important to our students' experiences and their ability to develop into really successful people as well as society members. So I will leave it there, and we'll move on. And then I think we're just going to give you a quick little taste, basically some quick facts about each of our schools. So we're all liberal arts and sciences residential colleges. We all have small class sizes. We all have great opportunities, but there are also things that make us different from each other. So to start with, Macalester, we are in the upper Midwest, in the state capital city of St. Paul. And internationalism is actually something that has for a long time been front and center in the Macalester experience and what we hoped our community really embodies. We were one of the first colleges in the US to actually go out and recruit international students. We've been recruiting international students since the late 1940s, so just after the end of World War II, but also really recognizing the importance of developing a curriculum that has a global emphasis. We want students to be able to understand things from a global context and not just their own local context. And it actually led us to create the first international studies program of its kind in the US, again in the late 1940s. And we were also one of the first colleges to fly the United Nations flag as a symbol of that commitment to globalism and internationalism. It's been flying since the 1950s. So a full 11 years before Kofi Annan graduated from our campus as an undergrad. Serving society is also incredibly important at Macalester. It's another one of our core values. 96% of our students engage in community service and civic engagement. That's not a graduation requirement, it's just something that they enjoy doing. And it really comes back to this sense of we also want to instill in our students and our graduates that attending Macalester is a great opportunity. There's lots of great resources to set you up for success, but with that comes a responsibility to also be doing good in the world around you, whether that is being an agent of change in your local community or even the world. In fact, Macalester is often ranked #2 in the US for students who want to change the world. And then finally, I always like to highlight our location. We're actually one of the few top nationally ranked liberal arts and sciences colleges that's actually in an urban setting. We're not an hour or 2 hours out in the suburbs. We are in the city of St. Paul in one of the beautiful residential neighborhoods of the city. Depending on your frame of reference, it may still feel pretty small. The metro area is about 3.5 million people, but I like to say that makes it manageable cities, right? So you get all of the benefits of that urban environment. In typical times, you have theaters, museums, professional sports games to go to, but you also have great access to internships, research opportunities like the one at the Mayo Clinic, 16 Fortune 500 companies. So students are really able to put their learning into action, not just on our campus in the classroom, but really the Twin Cities become their classroom as well. So I'm going to leave it there. Certainly you're welcome to ask questions at the end, but I'll turn it over to Swarthmore.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Lisa. I am representing Swarthmore College, located in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. Like all of the great schools here, we are a private co-ed liberal arts college, or not all of us are co-ed, but we are, Swarthmore is. And we have over 40 majors and minors in the humanities, the social sciences, the natural sciences, and engineering. So Swarthmore is unique within liberal arts colleges in that we do have a 4-year engineering degree located within our college. And in addition to that, we have interdisciplinary programs, and we have the option for students to design their own major. What that means is that if you don't find a specific major within the 40 majors that we have, you are able to work with faculty and staff to create a major for your own with the courses that we have available here at Swarthmore. In addition, we have pre-professional advising. So if you are interested in going on to medical school or law school, we do have advising specific for students pursuing those paths. In the US, medical school and law school are a postgraduate. So after you get bachelor's degrees, you move on to those schooling systems, as opposed to some places around the world where medical school or law school is essentially your next step in college or in your education after high school. So we are small, like all of the other schools here. We have about 1,600 students from all 50 US states and over 75 different countries. About 14% of our student body is international students. And we have about a certain percentage of undocumented and DACA students as well at Swarthmore. So we are located about 11 miles outside of Philadelphia, which is the 6th largest city in the US. Philadelphia is located about halfway between New York City and Washington, DC. So we are very well connected to many great areas in the US, as well as an international airport that will connect you to many different parts of the US as well as the world. So we have a train station right on campus. You can see the train here in this picture that will take you right into Philadelphia, which can give you access to a lot of different places as well. So some things that make Swarthmore education interesting. So we have a pass-fail first semester system. What that means is that your first semester as a student at Swarthmore is pass-fail. So you do not get any letter grades or number grades for the classes. You either pass or you don't pass. And this is a way for us to help you transition into college, as well as to help you rethink about your academics in a more collaborative and a more understanding way. We want you to think about what you're learning and not only the grades that you're getting. And another way that we try to retool the way that you're thinking about your academics is that we do not publish a GPA or any sort of merit marker for any of our students. So you are welcome to find your GPA yourself. You're welcome to figure that out yourself. But we as a college do not publish it because we don't want you to continue to think about your GPA and your grades as a marker for how well you're doing or how good you are as a student. We want you, again, to think about the content that you're learning, not so much an arbitrary grade. And we are a part of a tri-college consortium with 2 other institutions, Haverford and Bryn Mawr. So what that means is that you are welcome to take classes at those other schools, but you are also able to have a social community at Bryn Mawr and Haverford. So because we are a small school, we want to make sure that we give our students enough opportunity to meet people across many different areas and across many different diverse continuums. So Haverford and Bryn Mawr are close by to us. They're both also small liberal arts colleges, and we as a tri-college consortium create a community within ourselves to kind of expand beyond our campuses. And then in addition to that, we expand into the city of Philadelphia with classes and activities within a city, like museums and sports games and all of those activities. And then the last thing I will talk about is our financial aid and our cash-free campus system. So Swarthmore has cash-free campus, which means that anything related to your schooling at Swarthmore, any sort of activities related to your classes or student organizations that you are in, we do not require students to pay extra for those activities. And so this could be something as small as printing. We don't require students to pay for printing, but it could be as big as spending a day at the art museum in Philadelphia, or if you are in a theater program and the theater department decides to take students to New York to watch some Broadway plays. If it is related to your academics, the college will pay for those activities. So that's a way for us to help students take advantage of all the opportunities that we have, regardless of their financial situation. And at Swarthmore, we meet 100% of demonstrated financial need for all students who apply for financial aid, and that includes international students. So if you are an international student who needs financial aid, you are welcome to apply for that, and we will meet 100% of demonstrated need if you are admitted to Swarthmore. So that's kind of my 5-minute pitch for Swarthmore. I don't want to take up too much time because admissions officers can talk a lot. So I will let my other colleagues take it over.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Rochelle Ehrman. I'm an assistant director of admission at Vassar. Vassar College is obviously a liberal arts college. That's why we're here. We're a little bit of a larger liberal arts college. There's usually a range from about 1,000 students to somewhere closer to 3,000 students, and we have about 2,500 students at Vassar. So we're on the higher end, but we still have that really close community, small classes. It's really discussion based. It's really about your personal experience at Vassar. We are located about an hour and 45 minutes north of New York City in Poughkeepsie. It's about 120 kilometers north of the city on the Hudson River, which is a gorgeous place to go to school and a really lovely environment to be in. We're not a rural school. There are about 130,000 people who live in the area. We're considered to be pretty suburban. You have easy train access to New York City, but at the same time, we're not in the middle of a city. We're not surrounded by skyscrapers. There's not a lot of traffic. So it's a really good medium. Our campus is about 1,000 acres. Half of that is the Vassar Farm and Ecological Preserve, which is a functioning farm that grows fruits and vegetables that we use in our dining facilities. It's also where our rugby fields are. We have 7 miles of cross-country trails, and there's a field station for research. The other half is the main part of campus, which is where you'll eat, sleep, go to class, hang out with your friends, go to your clubs. And we have 9 residence halls that are not divvied up by class year. So there's no separate housing for first years or sophomores or anything like that. You're really integrated into the community from the moment you get to campus. We don't want you to feel isolated. We don't want you to feel like you're being singled out. You are a part of our community right away. And you're really getting to know students that are from the same area as you, but also from very different places as you. We have students from all 50 states, including and as well as Washington, D.C., and over 60 countries around the world. So our students are coming from all different backgrounds all over the place, congregating in our dorms and on our campus, and it's a really, really close-knit community. Academically, Vassar has what's called an open curriculum. So we don't have core classes and we don't have general education or gen ed classes. So you can come to campus and we're not going to tell you that you have to take a certain number of math, science, English, and history classes. We're not going to give you a core set of classes that everybody has to take. We want you to take advantage of the entire curriculum, all 51 majors, over 60 minors. They are all open for any student to take classes in, to major or minor in, regardless of your background in that subject. And we want you to explore and we want you to try new things. And if you want to double major or if you want to major and minor, like we really want you to take advantage of all of that without being weighed down by a lot of requirements or being forced to take classes that you're not interested in. And the last thing that I will highlight is similar to what you've heard previously, Vassar also meets 100% of demonstrated financial need for any student who is admitted to the institution. It's really part of our mission of access. We're one of the top schools for access and financial aid in the country, and we're really, really proud of that. And our students are very proud of that as well. So I'm going to stop and hand it over to Wellesley.
Thanks, Rochelle. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here sharing the virtual floor with these wonderful colleagues and institutions. My name is Milena Mareva. I am an Associate Director of Admission at Wellesley, and I'm also a former international student at Wellesley. I'm originally from Bulgaria and now have the privilege of coordinating the international recruitment process and bringing in the next generation of international students at Wellesley. So Wellesley is a powerful and empowering place which educates women who make a difference in the world. As an institution, we have a unique combination of qualities. First, we sit on a vast, breathtakingly beautiful suburban campus that is just outside of Boston, one of the largest college cities in the world. So this is an unusual combination. And this location allows our students to enjoy the beauty of the landscape, the magnificent architecture on campus, but also to be able to access the city with all the great social, cultural, academic opportunities that it offers, including cross-registration programs with MIT, Brandeis University, the Allen College of Engineering, and Babson College. So this is our family, so to say, of colleges with whom we collaborate on a number of projects, and students are able to take classes across campuses, including, we have a shared research program with MIT and a shared recruitment program with MIT. Another unique combination for Wellesley is that we are a small college with only about 2,400 undergraduate students, and we are a women's college. But our students represent one of the most diverse college communities in the US by most measures of diversity. So when you are talking about geographic, socioeconomic, linguistic, cultural, religious diversity. We are an extraordinary place. About 13% of our students are international citizens. About 40% of our students would learn a language other than English first at home. So everyone's comfortable with accents at Wellesley, and we are a truly cosmopolitan place. We are a campus that is 100% focused on undergraduate women, and yet we offer the kinds of resources, technology, and research opportunities that you would typically find at a large research university, which for our students means disproportionate access to opportunities. And we have the most powerful women's network in the world, with over 35,000 Wellesley living alums, and a network that includes famous women like Hillary Clinton, Madeleine Albright, and InitialView co-founder Gloria Chu. We believe that an educated young woman is the most powerful engine of social change, and we offer the most outstanding leadership development opportunities for women. So if you are someone who is eager to make a difference in your community, to affect change, to be a mover and a shaker, you will be right at home at Wellesley. Our model of leadership is unique. We view leadership as something that you develop over time, not necessarily something you're born with, and that requires practice, ongoing practice. So we expose students to a disproportionate number of opportunities on the campus. In fact, the campus is run by our students to a much greater extent than most other colleges in the US. So you should expect to be part of, maybe running the dorms or serving on committees, including the financial aid committees, faculty appointment committees. So students are really involved in planning for the life and future of the institution, including, for example, right now, planning around COVID-19 contingencies and how we're going to be implementing the new academic year. So I hope that you are excited to learn more about Wellesley after this brief introduction. I invite you to check out the amazing resources we have on our website. It's packed with information about the admission process, financial aid. We, like our peers today, we are offering to cover 100% of calculated need for any admitted student despite citizenship. So we are different than most colleges in the US in that way. So there's lots of tips and materials that could help you with your general college search on Wellesley's website and Wellesley's social media channels. But with that, I will wrap up the Wellesley intro, and I will hand off the floor to Rochelle, who's going to talk to you. Sorry, Sarah. No, sorry, Lisa. Lisa's going to talk to you about the admission process and what an opportunity that is to build relationships.
Thank you. So yeah, I will be talking very briefly about relationship building and how that can start during the admissions process. So one of the great benefits of liberal arts that we've talked about a lot so far is that we are small, intentional communities. And we really feel that way from the beginning at the point of admission. So we really want to encourage students to consider relationship building as a part of their admissions ideology, as a part of the things that they're thinking about when they are applying to school. So the first thing that I want to emphasize is that real people work in admissions. So we are not just robots behind a screen, robots behind an email that are just churning out material or churning out decisions. We are here to help you as a student navigate the admissions process. So this can be really challenging for any student who's applying to college, but we understand for international students who are applying to school in the US, that could be even more challenging. So the admissions officers, or AOs, are there to be somebody who understands maybe the context of your school environment, and they're there as the contact person who will connect you with the greater college. He'll connect you with maybe current students, some academic departments, other offices, and they're there to answer any questions. And I really want to emphasize that regional representatives are your advocate. They're there to be the person who understands where you're coming from and to help the committees that they're reading with, the other admissions officers, to really understand what that means. So for example, there are many different political issues going on in different parts of the world, and that could influence how students who are applying to college, what grades they might be getting or what academic experiences they might have. And your regional representative is there to really help people understand what that means. And in COVID times, that's even more important as we try to understand how different countries are reacting to COVID and how they are really influencing what students have access to at the moment. And then there's certainly other ways to connect outside of your regional representative or your admissions officer. So static resources like your college website, social media, admissions blogs, newspapers, publications, email communications from the admissions offices, and current students. Those are all things that I really encourage you to take advantage of. They're out there for you to review at any time that you're free. And that's really a way for you to understand what it's like to be a student at the institutions that you're looking into. Especially with like social media and blogs and student-run newspapers. Those are really places that you can fully understand what the student experience is like, as opposed to just, you know, if you're looking at our webinars or YouTube videos or anything like that, that gives you a glimpse of what it's like. But really these experiences from students are the things that you should be taking into consideration as you're looking at your institutions or looking at the schools that you're interested in applying to. And then of course there are in-person activities or virtual activities now, because we can't really have in-person ones. But there's virtual college fairs, there's virtual tours, info sessions, online Q&As, webinars like this one, and virtual interviews. So InitialView is offering these virtual interviews, which is a great way for you to really understand what it's like to apply to a college, as well as help the colleges really understand you as an applicant. These are all ways for you to connect, sometimes one-on-one, but really much more in a much more intimate setting with somebody who's there to help guide you. So for example, if you do a virtual info session with one of the schools, there's usually somebody there who's there to answer any questions that you might have about this specific institution. So come ready with questions, come ready with some things that you want to know about the school, because they're really there to help you understand what the school is like and whether or not it's a good fit for you. And then the last thing we'll talk about in terms of the relationship building process is demonstrated interest. So what this means is when you let your school know that you're interested in applying or you're interested in going to the school through interacting with admissions. So this could be by attending these virtual or in-person opportunities, or doing an interview, or going to certain events, or even just contacting your admissions office. So demonstrated interest is considered in various ways by different schools. Some schools do not track demonstrated interest. So if you contact them or if you attend these activities, they don't look at it when they're looking at your application. And on the other end of the spectrum, there are some schools that take that into deep consideration, where they will look at all of the ways that you've interacted with the school. And that's something that you should look at when you're considering a school, is how much they track demonstrated interest. But I would also caution you to be mindful where you're not just contacting these schools who track demonstrated interest because you were told that you should just email them as many times as possible, because that again, I want to go back to the first point. We are humans and they're real people working. And we understand that you're very interested, but if you do have something that you really are very passionate about or that you want to contact the school about, that is a great way to connect with the school and connect with the admissions office and start creating a relationship there.
All right, so let's chat about how you build relationships on the campus with all the different people who are part of the campuses. And first and foremost, of course, those would be your fellow students. All of our institutions are designed around the residential experience, and the campuses become a home away from home for you, and your fellow students are your siblings on the campus. So for most of our students, these would be the most diverse communities that they have been part of before, in their lives. More or less, in most respects, your community is probably less diverse than what we have to offer, which we hope would make for a great learning experience. Because the combination of the fact that the people around you have really different life experiences and perspectives to offer, and they feel welcome and they feel comfortable of sharing these with you, and you feel comfortable of sharing yours with them, is that learning happens. So besides the material that you learn in class, you learn all the time, 24/7, in and out of the classroom. So that's the kind of living and learning community we're striving to offer. And it hinges upon the development of these relationships. So you might expect to find students who are really eager to connect with each other on our campuses, and with whom you develop very deep friendships very easily. So the kind of environment that we're creating is very conducive to fostering these relationships. And it, of course, will be the basis of your academic learning in many ways, because the classrooms that we have are small and they rely a lot on that discussion and that level of comfort that students have to share their perspectives with each other. But also around the activities that happen on the campus. There are so many places and organizations and things that you will connect around with your fellow students. For example, running international student orientation, which I was involved in as an international student, or being part of a performing organization, or working on the structure of student life in your dorm. These are all great collaborative projects that you will have a chance to collaborate around with your fellow students. And so it's fun, it's great learning, but over the long run, it really helps you develop this phenomenal network of peers all over the world. So when you graduate, you have constant support and inspiration. And we'll talk a little bit about the alum network later, but this is where it starts, right? Those relationships that you develop with your fellow students. Some of my friends, I have been out of Wellesley for less than 20 years. And some of my close friends include the first female finance minister of Romania, the founder of one of the most hip Indian fashion brands based in Mumbai, Veranda, Anjali Patel. So, those were people I consider really close friends at Wellesley, who are now doing these super exciting things. So it serves as a great network for being a great source of inspiration. And so let's talk about faculty as well, which of course is one of the biggest advantages that small liberal arts institutions have to offer, because there are no graduate students on our campuses. So the only people our professors are focused on are undergraduate students. And so I found it curious, actually, that when Gloria set up the session, she put our first names. That reminded me to tell you that usually by the second week of class, you will know your faculty and they will know you by your first name. And often you would get to call them by their first name, no matter how famous they are. And the truth is that we are extraordinarily desirable place to teach for faculty. So we attract professors who are luminaries in their fields, who produce really important knowledge and make great contributions to their fields. But they choose to be on our campuses because they also, apart from the research they're doing, they also love teaching and they love collaborating with undergraduates. They love getting to know their students and mentoring them. So you will find it really easy to navigate these relationships with faculty, even if you're not familiar exactly how things work. You know, I was an international student. I was completely unfamiliar with the concept of office hours, but I quickly understood from my friends how important it was to actually go to office hours, even if I didn't have any questions about the material, because of the great conversations that happen with the professors around ideas of what you could be doing in the major, or how could you be combining your majors, or internships that you could be pursuing, career opportunities, connecting with alums and former graduates of these faculty, getting involved in research. So, you know, at our institutions, you will find that those relationships would lead you to a number of amazing opportunities. The faculty-student collaborations are the order of the day. There are no graduate students, again, so you have great exposure to the research that these faculty are doing and can join their teams. And then, you know, in terms of adjusting to college life, particularly coming as an international student, it really helped me to be able to have these honest conversations with my professors and ask for help and ask all these questions about adjusting to life in America or at a college campus. So strongly recommend going to office hours. If that's one thing that you take away from today's session, remember to go to office hours with your faculty members, and to remember how key those relationships would be throughout your life. Even, you know, when you prepare for graduate school, getting extensive letters of support is one of the actually most important elements of a successful graduate school application, or building connections in the field of your interest, getting access to those internship opportunities that we're going to talk about very soon. So with that, I will hand it off to Sarah, who will share with you how other offices are significant in your experience.
Thank you, Milena. And I just had to chuckle because I was thinking back to my own liberal arts experience in first year, and I'm not an international student, but it was still, I think, the first time I saw my religious studies professor on the treadmill next to me in the gym, and realizing that this was their community as well as my community as a student. And you know, my archaeology professor was always at our college orchestra concerts, so that just brought up such wonderful memories of like my own connections with faculty. So we've talked a bit about us as admissions officers, kind of your first connection as you're learning about schools. Obviously, your classmates and professors, these tend to be kind of the major people that students think of when they think of connections and support. But one of the really important kind of range of people, especially at residential liberal arts and science colleges, are administrators. We have so many different offices and departments, and you know, not faculty, but still professionals who are dedicating their careers to supporting students. And so you have everything from residential life professionals. We have health and wellness services that cover not just your physical ailments and concerns, but also mental health as well. Even the times of COVID, you know, our health and wellness center has been offering virtual mindfulness breaks over Zoom for anyone who is just looking to connect and kind of practice some mindfulness for a while. But I want to spend my time really talking about an office that we all have in some form or another, that especially for international students and students who are coming from overseas is really kind of a home base on campuses. And that's international student services, or sometimes called international student programs. These are the professionals who, especially in our small communities, really almost become second families. They are really going to be there to support you even before you arrive on campus. So they will often help you with arrival issues. So especially in this year, applying for visas, I've been able to see just how quickly and individually our ISP colleagues have been able to respond to our incoming students as well as current students who have had a lot of questions and uncertainties around the visa process this year with the pandemic. Being able to turn around and issue new I-20s really within 48 hours, they had done that. They can arrange airport pickups for move-in, things like that. They'll also help with your transition to the community. Orientation programs, like Milena was mentioning, often will have kind of pre-orientations or specific programming for international students, in addition to just the general orientation that all new students are experiencing. So it could be everything from kind of logistics, like how to set up a US bank account if you are working on campus and need a place to deposit your paychecks, all the way to things like understanding US culture. One of the favorite sessions that our pre-orientation offers is when our upperclassmen mentors talk about American humor and sarcasm, and like learning how to navigate what are Americans saying and what's deemed funny versus not. There are also other programs that often continue beyond those initial couple of days when you arrive. Things like mentor programs, where you might be paired with an upperclassman international student who is kind of like your older sibling, someone you can just talk to, ask questions that you think seem silly, but they've done it, they know the ropes, they can kind of help you navigate that. As well as host family programs. Often you're not necessarily living with your host family. Sometimes we call them friend families, but our students really appreciate that type of program because it allows them to connect with an American family outside of the academic space, and kind of seeing a sense of, oh, this is Minnesota life, this is American life. It could even be, you can put in a request to have a family that has a dog because maybe you're really missing your pet, or kids because you're missing younger siblings. That is really helpful, as well as, again, because of the smaller size, it is often very easy to develop those individual one-on-one connections. In fact, often international student programs offices will maybe even have designated check-in meetings with first-year students. So at certain points during your first semester or your first year, you actually have to come in and talk to them and check in. And they can help you navigate, oh, you're having an issue in this class, how can we help you navigate this? Or you're feeling homesick, what can we do to kind of help to address that? They can also help you with your administrative side of things, making sure that you're staying in compliance on your F1 visa, helping you file US tax returns. Things that maybe don't seem really important right now as you're considering different college or university options, but once you're a current student, having that level of support around some of the bureaucratic things and administrative things that it takes to be an international student in the US is just incredibly comforting and helpful. And they'll also organize social events too. Often, may organize different outings to movies or sporting events. They might have special programs to help you better connect with the US students that are on campus, like McAllister's Metrica program, where you actually are paired with a US domestic student and you're kind of a buddy, going through guided discussions throughout the first half of the semester. So lots of things like that, to the point where in many cases, the connection you create with these administrators lasts for decades. I mean, I know several professionals that are international student professionals, and they're getting invited to weddings around the world for former students that they've just stayed in touch. So yeah, I could go on and on, but don't forget there's even more beyond just your faculty and other students that are there to support you and make sure that you succeed.
All right. So the last element of this that we're going to talk about today is the relationship with alumni and career advising. So Melina touched on this a little bit. She was talking about her relationship with her friends at Wellesley that are now alumni, and all of those alumni are still connected to that school. So everyone who graduates from an institution still has that connection with the institution, and that's a connection that you automatically have with that person. So anybody that has gone to that school, and they could be in all different walks of life, all different industries, they're really there to connect back with you. In the US, we have a saying that it's not always what you know, sometimes it's who you know. And the career development offices or career services, the name sort of varies depending on the institution, will really be able to enhance your connection with these alums and make sure that you get that direct networking help. They'll give you career advice, if you are in a pre-professional program and you're looking to go on to a graduate institution, or if you're looking for a job in the United States or even outside of the United States once you graduate, or internships over the summer between years at the college. They're really there to get you connected to those opportunities, and a lot of times those come from alums that you may meet during a certain networking event, like a major palooza, which is when a bunch of alums and current students come and talk about their majors and help you understand sort of what they've been doing at the school and how they've taken that to the next step. Or Sophomore Career Connections, which is a big alumni event where alums come back and host panels and go to networking events to talk to students and to tell them about their advice for getting into the job market. There's also a central database for our career development office called Handshake, which is similar at a lot of institutions. It's an opportunity for you to get online and find out information about alumni. You can search by what they're doing, what they majored in, what year they graduated, and reach out to them directly and say, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. Can we set up a time to interview over the phone, or do you have any opportunities coming up in your company? And really maintaining those close connections. The alums are really invested in our schools because they had such a positive, close experience with their professors and with these offices. They're really looking to give some of that back. A really great way to connect with alums is also through alumni interviews. A lot of our schools do offer interview opportunities with alumni volunteers, typically in person, but more virtual this year. And this can be a really good way to share more about yourself with the admission committee. It comes back to the admission officer that is reading your application, like we talked about at the beginning, and really connect with more alums who live in your area. Obviously, InitialView also offers really great interview opportunities. If that doesn't work out, or you want to do a second interview, that's totally fine. And you never really know like what alum could help launch you into an industry or a career that you're not even thinking of, but it turns out that you really love. So with that, I'm gonna head it over to questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was really a lot of information, really rich information about what's to come. And I know a lot of people have questions about how to get there. And we have a few minutes, so I just want to kind of try to consolidate as much as I can. But the real thing is, please reach out. I mean, this whole talk is about relationships, and these 4 individuals want to start that relationship with you. And so please, if we don't cover your question, definitely email and definitely go to these colleges' websites. They have a lot of great information and great opportunities for you to engage. let's talk really quickly about a lot of people in this region of the world are worried about how to get there. And so testing is one question. I know that Sarah has already begun to answer it on the chat, but you know, any words of encouragement for those who feel that they don't have the same opportunities that maybe their upperclassmen friends had. And so any encouragement on that level of how it will impact their admissions?
So I just want to say that most of us have relaxed our testing policies, and testing has never been the foundation of our admission process. So the kinds of institutions that we described rely on an admission process that is very holistic. So we'd like to bring students who are academically prepared, would take full advantage of the academic opportunities, but of all these other opportunities, right? So how you build relationships is just as important as what your foundational math skills are, for example. And so, this year, given all the craziness around testing availability, most of us have decided to be test optional, and that's truly the case. So when an institution says they're test optional, you should just take their word and should not try to go through hoops to get to a test center if that's not available, or kind of expose yourself to any risk, or just focus on the other elements of the application. Don't worry about the testing part. And some of us, like Wellesley, we have long actually accepted InitialView as an alternative to the TOEFL test, right? If you have any concerns about English proficiency testing, that's a test that is, or the equivalent of a test that we are accepting.
So in light of tests, I mean, we've always, like in these institutions, tests haven't been the end all be all for admissions. I think a lot of people in parts of the world are considering, what other supplemental pieces of information are going to be helpful for you. You all have talked about kind of the context that you're able to get from having relationships. Are there opportunities if someone wanted to submit something additional? How do they go about doing that? Is that something that's encouraged? Any comments on that?
Yeah, I think obviously every institution has a slightly different process. If you're thinking more along the terms of a portfolio or a performance piece, a lot of institutions use Slide Room. Vassar uses Slide Room for music, art, and dance submissions. So if you want to have any of those evaluated by the faculty, you submit it through Slide Room, and there's an evaluation process with our faculty that can help your application. It's never held against a student if they don't get a good review, so it's only a helpful tip. But also we have like additional supplementary options that's just general. Ours is called Your Space. If I'll let everybody else say if they have one that's called something different, but it's an opportunity for you to share anything with the admissions committee that you think maybe didn't come through in your application, or you want to give an example. So like maybe you're really into video producing with your friends and you're like, oh, I want to show you some of the videos that I produced, and you send us your YouTube link, or you want to share your creative writing pieces, or you want to share a research paper that you've done. You can absolutely upload all of those to the Common App and we'll consider them as part of your application. So we definitely welcome supplements, especially if they like complement your application or show a new aspect of your personality that maybe we didn't get to see already.
In addition to that, I did answer in the Q&A, but I'll just verbally answer this as well. If you are doing research, a lot of international students do like pioneer research and all of that. Most colleges allow you to submit those papers as additional info, and similar to art supplements, they are helpful, but they are not like the end all be all. They are not going to be the thing that swings the pendulum one way or the other, but it is a helpful way for us to get to know you.
Wonderful, thank you. I did want to just, we have like only time for one more question. Again, please don't hesitate to contact these admissions officers. They want to answer all your questions, but one question that highlights kind of the difference between a small liberal arts college and a large university. Kind of just really briefly talk about what opportunities, how they different, and like maybe a specific example of, especially in the STEM fields. You know, I think people are anxious about liberal arts colleges maybe not having the same opportunities that a large research university has.
So I'm just gonna give an example with the equipment that you have access to. So at a small liberal arts college that is very well resourced, the students who pursue STEM research typically have access to research grade equipment and labs, not practice grade equipment and labs. At large research universities, usually often you would see undergrads having access to the practice level equipment. So even at that instrumentation level, the opportunities are going to be different. So, you know, the best places to do undergraduate research in the STEM fields are small liberal arts colleges that have great resources. So they actually would offer you a disproportionate access to research opportunities.
Yep. I will say, I mean, you're going to find a broader range of specialty probably at a large research university, but just because a university has that very specific type of engineering research or, you know, genetic research or whatever it is, doesn't mean that undergraduates are getting to work on that. You might be able to, but often the competition is so much greater. And so, yes, at small liberal arts and sciences colleges, the type of research that's available is very much reliant on the research interest of the faculty that we have. So, but again, it comes down to access, because, you know, I've seen statistics for, actually just the other day, a large flagship public university, great research university, and they were talking with great excitement about how 25% of their undergraduates get to do research. And for us in small liberal arts and science colleges, we're like, that's really tiny. Like, oh, you know, especially in our STEM majors, the vast majority of our students are having access to those research. And then often what happens in the US is graduate school and graduate research. That's where you really get to start narrowing down into that very specific field that you might be interested in. So
I'm just going to throw in a plug because I'm an employer. I want to say that liberal arts colleges provide that interdisciplinary approach and the diversity that, because you're forced to take classes in fields outside of your, you know, kind of your major, you're going to understand what the market needs in a way that people don't focus on when they're kind of, you know, researching one topic. So I will say that I think that opportunity is hugely underrated, but very, very beneficial for like an innovative company that's trying to do new things. Understanding your customer and how to be a better engineer and better CS person, it's huge. So I'm just going to put that as a little final plug. I want to be respectful to everyone's time. Thank you so much for spending time with us this Tuesday. We're looking forward to next Tuesday's Tuesday Talk. Again, do not hesitate to reach out to these admissions officers. Rochelle, Sarah, Milena, Lisa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And we look forward to the next conversation.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Bye.